Welcome, everybody, to another Value Stream show. I'm Steve, joined by Andrew. We're going to talk today about a recent field trip experience. I, but it's kind of unique in that way. This is the Lean Leadership Forum that you went on recently, Andrew.
Yeah, absolutely. So I took on a new job at Copato and requested permission to do some formal training courses to sort of fill in some of the gaps in all of the informal learning that I've been doing over the years. And my first stop was an event run by the Lean Enterprise Institute. And they had not, obviously during COVID, they'd not been doing any live events. And one of the first events they had to reopen was called the Lean Leadership Forum. So the Lean Enterprise Institute is based in Boston. It was founded by John Shook and Jim Womack and some others who were very early on in the lean movement. These were all ex-Toyota employees who realized I believe they just had their 25th anniversary. So I think this organization was founded in 1997. So they basically realized that there was an enormous demand for formal training and coaching and mentorship in companies that were trying to adopt some of the principles from Toyota, but failing in many miserable ways. And so they basically very, very high quality of consultants, and then they wrote books and hosted events and so forth. So this Lean Leadership Forum was pretty small, 100 to 130 people in attendance. And yeah, it was a really fun mixed gathering of people from a lot of different industries, and just a 2-day event, but it was fantastic.
Where did you go for?
So it was Boston. I actually flew into Boston for this, which is where their facility is. And they actually had, so they have a number of local companies that they've worked with around there. They've been doing this lean coaching all over the country, all over the world. They've got a network of other lean enterprise affiliates all around the world. But some of the site visits that they had set up were with companies scattered around that Boston area, and that was super fun.
So, so you, what was this like? It was a couple of days in a classroom setting, in a conference room, different spaces.
Yeah, so it was a conference room setting, and 80% of it, I would say, or 70% of it was conference style. So a number of large plenary talks, and then some food and snacks outside, and you kind of get up and you come in and out of these different sessions. But they had a number of interactive workshops, but most notably they had a field trip, what they'd call a Gemba visit. So if you're not down with the lean jargon, Gemba means the actual place where work is done. And so there's this expression, go and see, and really emphasizing that if you're at any distance from the work, you're not in any position to make accurate judgments about that work. You need to go and see. And so this became a mantra in the Toyota world: go and see, go walk the Gemba. And so there was a chance to sign up for different site visits. I signed up for one visiting AccuRounds, which is a metal fabrication shop. And they take these basically cylindrical pieces of metal, and they machine them down to, you know, nanometer or certainly micrometer precision, just a phenomenal level of precision in the machine uh, manufacturing. So um, I I probably have to speak to why I chose to go to tour a machine shop and this event, because most of the speakers, the headline speakers, were from Turner Construction. And so a lot of speakers from Turner Construction, from a furniture company in the Midwest that makes chairs for like Chili's restaurants, and a bakery. And so that was in fact the draw for me, was to go and see how lean is being put into effect in people who are dealing with physical environments, be that construction or baking or manufacturing or any of these kinds of things, because it's so grounding. I think as human beings, we've got this very our minds, our thinking is metaphorical. It's based on our knowledge of space and so forth. So even when Steve, you and I sit down to draw out diagrams and think through things, we draw pictures, right, to try to map out in space things that are not visible, and a lot of the stuff in the computer world is invisible. So I just really wanted to build my intuition for what these kinds of process improvement efforts look like in these physical domains.
So, let's if I put on a cynical hat of like, you work in software, um, you're touring a factory. How do you think about this? How do you justify this in as a valuable exercise for someone who needs to be doing virtual knowledge work in a digital context? What were you kind of hoping to get out of that beyond, you know, we would all like, probably everyone listening to the show would love to go wander around a factory for a day. What were you expecting to get out of it? And then what was there anything that you were kind of surprised to get out of it?
Yeah, I don't know if everybody listening to the show would like to go wander around a factory for a day. It sounds, dirty and noisy and scary and boring and like all of this kind of industrial stuff. It doesn't seem necessarily that attractive. So if you are the kind of person who likes wandering around factories, well, I guess we're kindred spirits. But
Yeah, let us know.
um, so many insights. But what was I hoping to get out of it? I was hoping to get a better sense for what this, because the lean movement was rooted in manufacturing processes and evolved in that environment where you could actually see work piling up here and there. And I wanted to get grounded in all of those references, to have something that I could anchor them onto by actually going and seeing myself. And so I was kind of open-minded beyond that point. I really just wanted to see how this looks like in practice. But what I discovered was, first of all, this company that we went toward, AccuRounds, it was so helpful from a lot of points of view. First of all, it's only maybe 130 people. So it's a relatively small business, or sort of medium-sized business. But it means that within the space that you're walking around there, you can see all aspects of the business functioning. You can see HR, you can see facilities, you can see room for finance and so forth, the intake, the receiving, the shipping, the processing, the break rooms, all this kind of stuff. And so it definitely helps if you're operating in a larger company where everybody's all remote, or you don't necessarily have a good intuition for how these different parts fit together. That was very grounding. Things like, some of the most striking things where they had a chart up there about employees and their skills and who was cross-training on which skills. It was just a big matrix, basically. Rows were employees, columns were skills. And they had, and they said, we have some employees that really want to learn and stretch and grow and learn all the different machines and so forth. And so we're really, partly for their benefit, their career growth, they can learn all these different machines, and also for our benefit, if somebody not available, we have somebody who's cross-trained, right? We have other employees who want to keep doing the same job they've been doing for 30 years, like receiving boxes in the warehouse. They like lifting boxes. They come to work to lift boxes. They don't come to work to operate a machine. And so one thing that really struck me, right, because I tend to think about these machining environments, manufacturing environments, as kind of inhumane. I would say it's industrial, right? It's not human scale. There's a lot of things there that could kill you if they go wrong, right? And that's why I think people stay away from factories. But the humanity that was manifest in this place was striking. And so they said, we have people who don't want to cross-train. We say, that's fine. You keep doing what you're doing. Their only concern is when they retire in a little bit, will they be able to get people who also just want to do that one job? But other than that, accommodating the desires of each of those folks, but then being so systematic. How long does it take to learn this particular machine? And then when you move to the actual machines, all of the steps were written out. There's this idea of standard work or standardized processes where you describe all of the steps that need to be taken. It was all written out explicitly in laminated sheets and hung on the machine, and the date at which it was last updated. Some things were updated this year, some things had been a few years. So here's the thing. Unless your organization is very, very well developed, you've got very well developed processes, you may not have a list of standard work that you're supposed to do every day, right? And let's say your job is, building software, but did you do all of the parts of that work? Did you do the documentation, right? Did you run the security checks? There's a whole pile of things that do actually need to be done systematically with every single piece of work that we do. Do you even have a list of what those things are? Do you know when it was last updated? Does everybody know where the list is? Here, you can see the machines. You can walk around. You see this machine 1, 2, 3, 4. Each one has the instructions posted right there, right there, right there. And they reconfigure the factory on a regular basis, the machine shop on a regular basis, based on new jobs they've got, new machines they've got in. And so this idea that their factory was continuously in motion, actually changing, where all of the instructions were made explicit, right? And one other last point I'd make about how striking it was, everything was so clean. And many people who'd spent more time looking at, in machine shops than I had said this is was one of the cleanest machine shops they'd ever seen, right? Normally there's shavings and oil and all this kind of stuff, but everything was super clean. And the idea was, among many things, right? It's showing respect for the workplace, but also where there's a dirty workplace, it's hiding hazards. And similarly, right, in our digital world, it's very easy to just spin off documents. There's digital documents everywhere, emails coming in and out. And it is chaos. If you were to actually visualize what our digital worlds look like, it's utter chaos. And in that utter chaos, a whole lot of risks can be hidden. A whole lot of mess can be hidden. And is it really showing respect for the work, right? Have you created a clean working environment for your people, let alone a clean, smooth onboarding plan, whereby they can know exactly what they need to do their job? So all of that was striking and really helpful.
I really like that, highlight of the level of standardization. And, I think that the common response is going to be like, well, you can do that in the physical world. You can do that in manufacturing. They're doing the same thing all the time. And, I think that, and then people will think about knowledge work and software development. They think of nothing is consistent. We're constantly using our creativity and problem solving skills, and the process changes on a daily basis. And I see that as an extreme view that kind of throws the baby out with the bathwater, right? It's because we are constantly evolving our practices and constantly developing rather than manufacturing, right? We're constantly building new things that we've never built before. That nothing can be consistent, nothing can be managed, nothing can be stable or standardized. And I think that's missing a lot. I think that's missing a lot of opportunity. And to your point, a lot of respect for the individual contributors, right? The people who have to be doing that work. If you're living under this model of like nothing is consistent, nothing can be, then you're attracting people who are to some degree hopefully comfortable with that scenario. Those people can be anywhere from just constantly battling the sense of like, you develop this comfort with discomfort, or, a level of confidence that they don't need standardization. It would hold them back, or, they don't need definition of their work because it would hold them to some inflexible frame or guardrails that would restrict their ability to make decisions. And I think you don't want any of that, right? You want people who feel supported. You want people who feel like they know that they're moving in the right direction, that they're making the right decisions, that their work is valuable, and they're hitting a level of quality that is valued by the organization and customers, right? Nobody wants to walk into a performance review like, I hope this goes well, right? You want to be in a position where, I feel great about the work I did today. I feel great about the work I've done this week, this year. And I know that I've been holding up my end of the bargain, let's say. And the folks who don't need any of that, there's a lot of folks who are like, I don't need any of that. I feel confident in my abilities, my contribution and stuff. They can be very surprised when, things are actually measured on the other end. And, but they could also be, very much off track, making assumptions about that things are moving in the right direction, or things are adding up. So I think that, there's a middle way, right? There's a middle way of defining what is valuable to define, having structure that kind of supports people and brings a level of consistency and facilitates automation so that we can navigate the uncertainty that's necessary, that's, that we really is valuable to tackle, right? The unknown, the thing that's maybe moving us forward into territory that we haven't traveled before, that everything else is taken care of, right? So you can make that challenging work a little bit easier, a little bit higher quality, increase your odds of success. So I think that there's a lot of interesting discussions about this, what you can borrow from physical manufacturing, what's valuable in a software knowledge work context. And I'm envious of your trip into the Gemba, because I think that I've always felt like I want to understand the physical manufacturing world so that I can better understand the contrasts and the similarities with knowledge work. But I'm guessing
you may find a
go ahead.
factory, look for a factory near you that's offering tours.
That's right.
Toyota plants are famous for offering tours. A lot of factories may have the intention to do that in San Diego as well. I guess I would chip in. There's one point. One of the big insights that they came to, Gene Kim and Jez Humble, among others, when they were working the DevOps Handbook, was that the software development process, and in fact, almost all processes, consist of two parts. The development part, the creative aspect, and then the replication or standardized part. And so for those two parts, even within Lean, there is a Lean product development aspect that is the creative, open-ended part, and then there's a Lean manufacturing part. Now, in the world of manufacturing, the manufacturing and the repetitive part, is where a lot of the cost is incurred, right? Because your raw materials are a huge amount of your cost. In software, that repetitive part is often very, very fast and fairly cheap, but nevertheless, it still exists, right? And so the most of the attention on DevOps has gone into easing and automating that repetitive part, right? The automated deployments, automated tests, automated security scans, pull requests, and so forth. But that there are Lean principles for both sides of those, and you just do need to know which side you're operating in and optimize for that. So.
I like that model of know where you're operating and optimize, right, under those circumstances. So I'm guessing you weren't here kind of surrounded by other folks in the software world. What was kind of like the average profile of folks attending the forum?
It was a diversity of industries, but I was unusual in representing software. There were a number of people who were involved in pharmaceutical manufacturing, which is a manufacturing, but obviously an unusual one with its own unusual constraints. But it felt like something of a cross section of American industry, and that was very grounding as well for me to recognize that there are a lot of people whose daily work is not touching a computer. One thing that really stuck in my mind, a couple of people that one on stage and one just in a conversation, said during that event, if it's in the computer, it's hidden. That scared me a little bit, right? Because it's a whole lot of stuff we do that's in the computer. If it's in the computer,
Right.
it's hidden, by which they meant, right? If you're navigating in physical space and taking advantage of this incredible, our incredible innate capacity to understand and navigate physical spaces and see other people and signs and distance and processes and so forth, something that's in the computer is hidden. And so they would print something out and put it up on the wall, and lots of big signs, right? Signs to remind people of this process, signs warning about a certain machine where, debris contamination could be problematic. So lots of physical signs. And I think we've got a long way to go to creating a working environment for digital workers that is able to take advantage of all of this innate capacity to orient ourselves in physical space, and also not have all of these problems hidden. So, in short, it was a fantastic trip. Delighted that I was able to do it, and would certainly recommend any of these events run by the Lean Enterprise Institute in Boston. It's lean.org. Great organization. So.
Awesome. Thanks for recapping and sharing that experience. It's still on my list of bucket list experiences. So
do it.
Hopefully I catch it next year.
All right.
Thanks.